Hello and welcome back to Beers, Bourbon, and Games. I'm your co-host Mike, and with me is
Conquer Corey.
And to continue our love of retro gaming, we have purchased the Anbernic RG35XX handheld retro gaming console. Let's get into it.
Say that 5 times fast in a sentence.
So, this is a handheld console that we purchased recently to check out. We ordered a bundle kit that came with the system and the carrying case. Let's open up, take a look at it. It was packaged very nicely so far. Let's pop this sucker out. I went with the, because it's a retro console, I went with the retro color scheme.
It looks just like a Game Boy. Nice.
And I just turned it on by accident.
Hey, perfect. All right.
Actually really loud. Huh. Well.
So it's obviously got the old school Game Boy aesthetic with some extra buttons. It got an LCD panel, it looks like.
It's got an HDMI cable on top, out. Buttons feel pretty good.
Very clicky.
Actually, the buttons feel really good, to be honest with you. Volume up and volume down on the sides. Comes with a screen protector, the adhesive wipes, and instruction manual.
It has an HDMI port on the top of it, so you can plug it up to your TV. It has HDMI-C, or not, USB-C at the bottom, audio jack. So it's already got more ports than a MacBook does. It's got a micro SD card TF reader and another TF reader. Okay, it's got two. It's got two TF readers. Okay, one's already got a card in there. I think it's for the operating system, isn't it? Okay.
I think so.
Got the power button. Only thing I like the feel of it. I like how it feels like a Game Boy. Only problem I don't like, and I see my hands cramping up, is the way the buttons are lined out. I don't know. I'm not coordinated enough to press these without pressing the other one on accident. So that is a little bit of a criticism that I do got with it. But I understand they really couldn't put it anywhere. And if they didn't add these buttons, it was going to be limited to just Game Boy games.
Right.
So.
And it did have a, this comes with USB-C cable.
So all in all, it looks like a pretty good little console. Is that all that was in the box there? And
yeah.
So one thing I want to see for sure is how this thing runs, and I want to kind of compare it a little bit, because as you know, on our channel, we've actually done a review over the competitor, I guess, in this space. I don't know who did it first. I think Retroid did it first, but this is the Retroid 3 Plus, Pocket 3 Plus. I've had this one for a good long time. It's actually got the classic SNES theme on it. Really like it. It's been a really good Android console for me.
I've really liked this one. When we did the review on it, I almost bought one for myself.
But I'm really curious how they stack up. I think this one may be a little bit more higher spec just because of what it's designed to do versus that one. But like I said, we'll compare them. And how much? Well, actually, we'll save that. We'll save. Let's take a look at the comparison of the performance and how they do on emulation, and then we'll talk about price, and then give you our final thoughts on which one's the better buy.
That sounds good. So we're going to take this one, we're going to set it up, we're going to do a kind of a show you how to set it up like we normally do, and then we'll go from there.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we need an SD card, and we're going to get one of these USB to SD card adapters. We got an Anchor one, but you can get these things for like $5 at a dollar store. Now we're going to move over to the website here. We do have a retro handheld guides that I'll include in the link description of the video. The link in the description of the video. There we go, more specifically. This is going to be the guide that I use to set this up, and that you should use to set this up because it walks you through step by step. It's really simple. So you do need some tools there. It's going to have you download all of them. So just download and install them. It'll list it in the website. And then now we're going to go to the Patreon page for the person who created the Garlic OS. And it takes you a couple minutes. I was scrolling up and down telling Mike, I cannot find the links to the OS. And he proceeded to call me a scrub and says I wasn't looking hard enough. And he was right. I wasn't looking hard enough. So it gives you a big list of all the fixes they've done since the Patreon started, or since the project started. I call it Patreon, but so we're scrolling all the way down. You can see there, you can accidentally go all the way to the comments, but these are the two that you need. It is the card image 1 and 2. So you're just going to click and download those. And you'll see here that I did I downloaded the other ones, but I ended up not needing them. So now that we have the micro SD card image, this is for our operating system. We're going to simply right-click it, and if you installed 7-zip, you should have an option for 7-zip to extract it. So you just start extracting the first one, and it will automatically move on to the second one and extract both of them into the same directory. So you do not need to extract 002. Just extract 001. And you'll have the whole image. Once you got the image, you'll see the operating system. ISO is what we call it in the tech world. So we'll open up Rufus, and then from here you need to select your SD card. Now make sure you select the right one. You do not want to override your data drive with the Garlic OS. I cannot stress that enough. It would be bad. You can see me. I'm double and triple checking my drive numbers because I have a portable drive that has all of my data. And like all of our YouTube stuff. It'd make Mike sad if I deleted it.
I would have to dock your pay.
So you see I'm doing some final checks there, and once I'm for sure that I got the right one, I'm clicking start. And the good thing about this software is it will give you a warning saying, hey, we detect data in here. It will be destroyed. I love how it be emphasis on destroyed instead of lost. It's like, it will destroy it. So I told it I'm for sure twice, and now it's going to work through writing the image. And this may take a little bit. This took me about 5 to 10 minutes. It really varies on the speed of the SD that you're writing to and your computer and other factors. So just let it do its thing. I promise you it will complete, and you'll be good to go. Once you get the bar that says ready at the bottom there, that means you're good to go. It's done, so you can actually click the close button. Don't hit start again, or you're going to go through that whole process again. So just click close there. And then if you pull up your Windows File Explorer, you will see that you will have that SD card occupied there. Now you may get errors that says, hey, do you want to format it? Do not format it. Just leave it be. It's formatted exactly the way it needs to be. Now we're going to move on to prepping the storage SSD. This is super simple. Just make sure that it's in FAT or FAT32 format. And then I'm going to create 2 folders. I'm going to create a BIOS folder, and I accidentally named it Games, so you're going to see me change it here to ROMs because I'm old school. And I like to use the term ROM.
Elitist.
So self-explanatory, drop your BIOS files into the BIOS folder, drop your ROMs into the ROM folder. You can get a little creative like myself and add additional folders. So SNES, PSX. Organization's never a bad thing. And you just simply drop your ROMs into those folders, and that's all you got to do. And that's the secondary setup. As far as installing the SD cards, if we look at the side of the unit here, we'll have one space that's for the primary, and the one next to it is the storage. So you're just gonna see me eject it. It had like this really cheap SD. It didn't even have a brand. It just had a 64 put on the side of it, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't even 64 gigabytes either. It was like 16 or something like that. It's very common for those sketchy brands online to do that.
The OS on that thing was terrible too.
Oh yeah, it's flat out awful. Not to mention it had a lot of ROMs, so it was technically an illegal SD card. But we're putting some high quality SD cards in there that'll be a whole lot better and won't randomly die on us and we lose our Xenogears save. Imagine getting all the way to the end of that and it just dying. Be horrible.
Ugh.
Alright, so now we're going to take a look at the OS here. So we did some testing here before we recorded it, but we're going to back out and show you some of the setup because there is some RetroArch setup we need to do. So we're going to go over to RetroArch. And the main thing to really do here is we're just going to set our directory. So we're going to go down to Settings, then Directory. And in the System BIOS directory, you'll need to set that to the BIOS folder that we set up on our secondary drive. Now, it may be a little bit different for yours than ours. It took me a little bit of tinkering to find my right folder, so you may have to go through the directories, just make sure you find the right one. But the key point here is to make sure that RetroArch is pointing to that BIOS directory, or else your PlayStation games won't launch correctly. There is other configuration you can do as well, but it doesn't really, unless you want to tinker and add some settings here and there. I just set the BIOS and go. So you will see that Mike is playing Resident Evil, the original Resident Evil on this. Mike, how did it play for you?
Surprisingly, really, really well. I didn't have much issue with it. It took me a little bit to figure out the controls. I will say that, just because it's not exactly a PlayStation controller, obviously. But once I figured that out, I was able to. You'll see me go in here and start moving around, and it took me a little bit to figure out how to shoot a gun and stuff. But once I did, it was pretty good. I'm pretty impressed with it.
Sound is very loud too.
Yes, this thing is extremely loud. I think we talk about that a few times in this video, but it's very loud.
Pew, pew. I want to replace the gun sound with Owen Wilson. Wow, wow,
Wow, wow.
If you're watching this, Owen, we love you.
There we go. See, I figured out how to shoot finally. And of course, the main reason I got this was to play Breath of Fire 3 because I've been dying to replay it. And I could have played it other ways, but honestly, this is nice to have by my bed at night to play. It was flawless on this. It was absolutely perfect for it.
Yeah, RPGs like this one are ideal for small consoles like this. RPGs on the go.
Other than one crash we had when we were trying to program it, I really haven't seen any big issues with it. When I was playing this, it was working just fine.
Well, that was an interesting little journey. I've never programmed one of these before.
It was the first time for everything, I guess.
So basically,
You closed it?
Huh?
You closed it?
I did close it. I know. I like to reopen it. I like presentation. It's everything. But essentially, what I ended up doing was took out the trash hard drive or flash SD card that was in it. I don't know. It just didn't have a brand. It just wrote a number on it. I don't trust things like that. And we had a SanDisk drive, and then we had a PNY drive that I just opted to use for storage. Garlic OS was a very interesting install. Very simplistic. I liked it. It runs RetroArch through its emulators, I'm pretty sure, based on the videos there we were showing and the work through. Now, one thing was a little weird, is a little jarring trying to figure out how to keep the emulators from resuming instead of starting over, because I had an instance where Breath of Fire 3 crashed. And it kept going back to that crashed point. And I had to go online and look up and try to figure out how do I get it. And it's as simple as pressing the start button. But overall, it's a interesting little device. I think I like the Retroid Pocket 3 just a little bit better, just because it's built on Android. This is a custom OS. This has a little bit more option to play certain PlayStation 2 games. But here's the kicker: how much did you pay for this?
I think overall this, I think it was about $70.
$70. This ran me $125, so it's $50 more.
Yeah.
So if you are a very budget conscious person and you don't want to play anything higher than PlayStation possibly, or you just want something for Game Boys, a lot of people get this for the nostalgia. I mean, it looks like a Game Boy. It'd be great for playing Pokemon, for instance.
Right.
It took everything in me to keep from launching Pokemon Red and just disappearing and trying to be the very best there ever was.
That's your real test.
Yes. Some things just to kind of note out a little bit. The placement software, I mentioned that earlier in the video, but
Well, we got big meaty hands though, is the problem.
but again, if you're very budget conscious, this is probably the better buy, because this does cost a little bit more, but you get more with it. You get Android based OS, which opens up all kinds of games for you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're not without problems. Retroid has a bad habit of I bought this, and not even 2 weeks later they released the newer model of it. So
Yep.
and what I mean by that, they went back to a clamshell design. So you know, they're constantly upgrading, and that's common for these Chinese manufacturers. They pump them out, man.
That's how they make their money.
They don't take breaks. But what do you think? This is obviously for you, and you.
Honestly, I like it. It's small. I like the fact that the case is also very small for it. I can fit it in my back pocket and take it somewhere. I mean, yeah, I can use my phone, but I hate playing games on phones. I like having buttons. I like the tactile sensation.
I like to leave my battery powerful phone tasks when I need them, because
like
you know,
YouTube or videos.
if I break down in the middle of somewhere and I go to make that 911 call because I'm stranded, and then but all of a sudden my battery's gone because I've been playing Resident Evil on my phone.
Right. The screen is very bright and it's very nice. It looks great. The sound is super loud on this thing.
It is.
I couldn't believe how loud it was on here. Overall, I'm pretty happy with it. And I think the only reason why it was, you can get these actually even cheaper than $70. I've seen them around, but the more expensive, the $70 I paid came with the cards. So that's why it was good to have. Overall, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm going to play Breath of Fire 3 on it that I've been talking on this channel. I'm going to play forever. I'm just going to start doing it. I'm going to lay in bed at night, play a couple hours of it, and go.
And like I said, with that being said, I think PlayStation is probably going to be the highest. Maybe Dreamcast. Keep your expectations in check.
Yeah.
The hardware is not designed to push that more powerful emulation. Now, I'm sure there's other things you can do and tweaks and stuff, but that wasn't what this was designed for. This was designed for your lower-end retro games that require little to no power at all to run. If you want something with more power, that's where this starts to become a more viable option.
If you have the extra money, get that. If you want something cheap, quick, or as a gift, this isn't bad. If you're going to play just PlayStation games, this is fine. Or Game Boy games, which I'm pretty sure is what it was originally designed for.
And install Garlic OS, because the stock OS is just garbage.
The stock OS on this is really garbage. Luckily, Corey is really, really good at this stuff, and he was able to put the Garlic OS on here, which at the time of this video, the creator has stopped working on, but if it works, it works. You know, somebody else might pick it up or whatever.
That's the nice thing about retro gaming. It never changes.
Yep.
Once it works unless someone updates an emulator.
I probably played on this thing for like 30 minutes after you finished it, while he was doing other things. I was doing research on it, and Breath of Fire 3 was working great. It was exactly how I wanted it. So we'll see. We'll kind of do a look back in the future. I'm sure we have a bunch of these laying around, and the more we get, we'll do a look back on these and see if they held up or not. So
all right. Well, tell us what you think. Have you tried the Anbernic? I'm not even going to try to repeat that serial code of a name. The RJK 445-867-5309.
you were really close there at the beginning.
But do you got this, or do you got something like a Richwood Pocket? Which one do you prefer, and which one do you find more appealing? Do you find the budget, smaller end device more appealing, or do you really prefer to kind of spring that little extra cash, get that little extra eagles behind the processor? But as always, I'm your co-host Conquer Corey,
And I'm Mike.
and we'll see ya.